welcome back to A Chapter a Day.
Keeps the devil away.
I'm Pastor Fleck. That's Pastor Holland. We're talking Galatians chapter 1. We're going to observe it. We're going to, first outline it, then observe it, then interpret it, then apply it so that you can be fully engaged with Jesus on your way today. So verses 1 through 5, Galatians 1, talk about just the basic greeting and apostolic authority of Paul. He identifies himself as an apostle, not from men or through human appointment, but directly from Jesus. Then he gets into verses 6 through 10, and he gets right to the point, the shock that the Galatians have turned away from the one who called them in grace. Then verses 11, 12, Paul gets into the assertion that the gospel he preached isn't according to man, nor do you receive it from man. It came through a revelation of Christ. Then Paul reminds him in verse 13 through 17 of his pre-conversion life and his calling, that he who once was persecuting those who were Christians is now becoming the greatest proponent of Christianity among Gentiles. Kind of wild. Then verses 18 to 24, Paul reminds of the early independence and limited contact they had with the Jerusalem apostles, not saying that Peter was any less or that James was any less, but that he's not any less either, that he is equal to, because Jesus directly appointed him. It wasn't like a vote and he rose up through the ranks, but rather Jesus directly appointed him. All right, what observations are you seeing here in this chapter?
Okay, so the main problem here in Galatia is that they're turning to a different gospel.
Yeah.
So it's not just they have some like kind of weak theology in this one area or that area that's like secondary issues or something, but they've lost the gospel. They've turned away from the very foundation of salvation.
And I like how he points out, if an angel of God or even them preach you a different gospel, don't believe it.
Yeah.
And that just makes me automatically think about Muhammad of Islam. In roughly 600 AD ish. Muhammad goes into this cave. He starts meditating because his wife is like, you need a break. He goes to the cave, and then he is greeted by what he thinks is something demonic. He goes and tells his friends about it. They're like, it might not be a demon, it might be an angel. You should go back. So he goes back, and then the demon starts choking him and says, "I'm actually the angel Gabriel," and speak. And then he puts the words of the Quran into his mouth, and eventually he memorizes them. He speaks it, memorizes it, and then has it written down because he was an illiterate dude. It's in like this really great poetic form, which I would say that sounds demonic to me.
Yeah, and the fact that he's going by the name Gabriel, like the angel Gabriel is a big deal in the Bible. That's the one that visited Daniel in the Old Testament. It's the one that visited Joseph and Mary. Like, this is like God's super, right-hand guy angel. And so someone claiming to be Gabriel and then giving a totally different gospel and account of, it's demonic.
So demonic. So then in the 1800s in the New England area, you've got Joseph Smith, who is really trying to figure out what church is it? The Catholic Church, Protestant Church, Methodist Church, Anglican Church, which church? And he's just really distraught. Mm-hmm. And he goes and meditate out in the woods. And then that's where he meets the angel Moroni. And Angel Moroni goes, "Joseph, let me show you the true religion. Everybody else is wrong, but you are going to be right." And so then he says, "If you look into my magic hat," or if you hear this.
Magic stones.
Sorry. Well, but he put them in his hat, right?
Yeah.
And I like magic hat way better because it goes along with Frosty. Anyway, so he gives him the magic stones, and then he puts the magic stones in his hat, and then he puts a little, he looks through the little seer stone to kind of read what the stones say. And then while he's reading it, he's got his buddy who writes it all down for him. And then the buddy's wife is like, "This is ridiculous. Why don't I hide this page and go back and say like, hey, I lost this page. I need you to translate it again. And if he can, it's legit. If he can't, it's not." And he can't. So he goes, "Oh, God's mad at me. He wants me to do a whole new letter." And he's like, yeah, that makes sense. And so
it's so crazy.
And so
I love that the angel's name is Moroni.
Yeah.
It's like if someone visited you, an angel visits you, and he's like, "My name is Idiota." Like, I am Stupido, the angel. You're just like, okay. And so like, here you have literally what Paul warned against. Angels preaching different gospels. The account of how a person can be saved, according to Mormonism and Mohammedanism, are false gospels.
False gospel.
And they were delivered by angels. And Paul says, don't believe them. And he says, let whoever tries to preach that to you be accursed.
Right.
Be, cut off from the church. That's not a Christian. Mormonism is not Christianity.
Yeah.
Anyway, the stuff that Paul warned about here is like real.
It literally happens over and over again. All right. What about, what do you see here just about truth about man?
I've always loved Galatians 1:10. For am I now seeking the approval of man or of God, or am I trying to please man? He says, if I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ.
Right.
And so, this principle is true, is brought up in like many other places. Like Jesus says, you can't serve both God and money, right? You'll hate one and love the other one. Same is true. You can't serve both man and Christ. Like you have one master, and if you're trying to seek the approval of man, trying to win, make everyone think you're awesome, and that's what matters most to you, you are not serving Christ. You're not living the Christian life. And so I've always loved that verse.
Yeah. How about man's, and this specifically Paul, his past life and zeal can be misguided. Paul had unbelievable zeal in his pre-conversion persecution. So like religious fervor without Christ leads to destruction.
Yeah.
And transformation comes only through divine revelation and grace.
Yeah.
And I think, it's like the people that are sort of like the craziest lost people usually make the best Christians.
Yeah, because it's not like he became a Christian and he stopped being zealous. It's that his zeal was pointed in the right direction.
Right.
Yeah.
How about, this is but man is easily swayed and quick to desert the truth.
Mm-hmm.
We can turn from grace to a distorted gospel under pressure or deception. And I just think about it's not like Muhammad it's not like he had he had some Christian friends. At least that's what but were they Gnostic Christians or whatever? What were they?
Yeah.
And so there's like some parts where they
obviously didn't know Galatians 1.
Right. They didn't know Galatians 1. And like in Islam, it's kind of like against Gnostic Christianity, which we'd all be like, yep, we're against that too. And it's like a polemic kind of against that. So it kind of leads you on some parts of that is really true, but like with all counterfeit religion, there's some truth that's shrouded by a whole lot of lies.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just love that the last verses, 23 and 24, he who used to persecute us is now preaching the faith he once tried to destroy. Yeah. It's a reminder that like even the person that is the greatest enemy to the cross, greatest enemy to Christianity, who's trying to persecute the church, that person can become a Christian, an evangelist, a church planter, a missionary. So it's just a reminder of how radically God can transform us and not to give up hope on people you're praying for.
Yeah, it's good. How about the truths about God? How about God calls and appoints, especially apostles directly by grace? What about, could you say that God appoints beyond apostolic authority directly?
Like, does God still appoint people to different roles and things today?
Can you say that God's calling me to be a pastor? God's calling me to be an elder. God's calling me to do whatever.
Yeah, I think from my own personal experience, I believe the Lord had called me to plant a church in East Austin, and I did it because he called me to do it. And I think there's, throughout church history, people who felt a strong conviction and calling to this particular city or this particular nation as a missionary, or, this particular community. Like, I think the Lord still calls people to those specific ministries.
Yep. Okay. What about God? How about God delivers from the present evil age through Christ's sacrifice? I think that's like a duh, but I think it's still helpful to kind of remind ourselves that who we are worshiping and who delivered us.
Yeah, he's a deliverer. I love that. I love that God saves and transforms lives, and that just Paul's story, when it says they glorified God because of me. Just that God is the kind of God who will turn his enemy, into a friend to bring glory to himself. is really cool.
How about God can transform a life? Like no matter how wicked or evil or how murderous, he has the potential to take that and make it the most peaceful, grace-filled of all time.
Yeah, and if you even just look at some of the ways God is referred to, God the Father.
Yeah.
That tells us what God is like. He's a protector, a provider, a benevolent leader. He's gracious and kind. He disciplines his children. Like that says so much about who he is. Or the Lord Jesus Christ. Verse 3, he's Lord. He's not someone that, we hear what he has to say and we go, let me think about, whether I agree. Like he's Lord. We obey him. He has authority over us.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, what about some application? Let's jump right in here. I got sin to avoid or confess, a promise to claim, example follow, command to obey, or knowledge to believe.
Don't turn away from the gospel, even if an angel from heaven brings you into a cave or out into the middle of the woods and tells you this is the right way. Don't listen to that angel. Don't listen to some influencer online who's trying to tell you another way to be saved, other than by grace through faith in Jesus Christ.
All right. Here's some knowledge to believe. And to me, it's relevant, but it may seem weird. It says Jesus Christ, Paul, an apostle, not from men or through man, but through Jesus Christ and God the Father who raised him from the dead. All right. Nobody's disputing that Paul wrote Galatians, right? Nobody's sitting there going like, nah, I don't really know if Paul wrote it. And nobody's disputing about the time in which Paul wrote it. And remember,
there's a little debate about whether it's like 47, 48 or 57, 58.
Right, but we're not talking like 120.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we're talking within a generation of Jesus. Okay. So knowledge to believe is that the resurrection, remember, because verse 1 is, but through Jesus Christ and God the Father who raised him from the dead. Like that was primary in all the writings.
Yes.
And you're bringing, because sometimes we think, the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I mean, did they really talk about Jesus being raised? No, but Paul, the primary preacher and a guy who dies in 64 AD, where no one is disputing that. All of his letters are talking about Christ crucified, raised from the dead.
Yeah.
So the primary...
If Jesus didn't rise, everything he says is discredited completely.
He even says that. So it's like, you need to say that Christianity is a legend that was made up over time does not hold water,
right?
Because the New Testament isn't like one book that someone wrote from beginning to end. As if you've been joining us for Chapter Day, you're seeing all the different letters and all the different purposes and all the. But the one thing that the thread that goes through it all is like Jesus rose from the dead.
Yeah, and we have that from so far what we've covered: Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Acts, which is written by Luke, and then Romans, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Galatians, written by Paul, who is the main kind of character person in the second half of the book of Acts. So you have like all these different dudes, Jew and Gentile, from different places with different, all giving their account. The resurrection of Jesus is the foundation of it all. If that didn't happen, this whole book is worthless.
Right.
It's nothing.
And remember,
but it did happen. So
it did happen, and it'd be weird to have this collection of writings all saying the same thing, and then for you to go like, nah, that was a legend developed over time. You might say that they all believed a lie. You might say that they all were just crazy people, but to say it was a legend made over time it doesn't hold.
Yeah.
And you're like, the different, people took the translations and it was word of mouth. Like that is just so far from what reality is. You cannot say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially if, even what you were saying, like, they all like agreed on the lie together. Maybe if they all became like independently wealthy and lived a long life and got their book deal and went on their tour, like,
that makes sense.
But what did they get? They all got beheaded, burned, crucified,
Did not go well.
It did not go well.
And so like you could be.
What did they have to gain from this lie? Their own death. So it's just crazy.
I mean, it takes a lot of faith not believe that Jesus died and rose from the dead once you start to investigate it. All right, how about command obey? Hold fast to the true gospel of peace.
Yes.
Like, I mean, maybe that's too obvious.
Example to follow: don't seek the approval of man and try to please man.
That's good.
Now, you should try to please each other in the way of like loving each other, serving each other, but meaning like looking to another person, not Jesus, like to kind of validate your existence and give you worth and value, and go, if this person says I'm okay, then I'm okay.
It's good.
When you give that to someone other than God, you will be miserable. Your life will be, just an anxious wreck.
I think don't be an anxious wreck. There's my last command to obey. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time on A Chapter a Day.